Story 1. This happened to me. I moved into a new city apartment, eager for a fresh start. My roommate Alex seemed perfect. His online profile was incredibly impressive. Alex's LinkedIn boasted incredible achievements, his Instagram was filled with exotic travel, and his blog posts were insightful. It felt almost too good to be true, a nagging thought I initially dismissed. Out of friendly curiosity, I casually researched him. I just wanted to learn more about my new roommate. I started with a quick Google search, expecting simple confirmation. That's when I noticed the first subtle inconsistency. A blog post from 2015 referenced a movie that wasn't released until 2018. It was a minor detail, but it stuck with me. Then I found photos of his university days. They looked suspiciously perfect, almost like stock images. The faces in the background were too generic, the lighting too staged. This wasn't just casual curiosity anymore. A deeper dive revealed something chilling. Alex's vast online presence was entirely shallow, a facade with no genuine connections. There were no mentions from family members, no old childhood friends tagging him in nostalgic posts. It was a perfectly isolated digital island created just for him. All his friends on social media had sparse profiles, few posts, or appeared completely inactive. They were digital ghosts populating his fabricated world. His physical presence mirrored his digital one. Alex was charming but expertly deflected any questions about his past. He never elaborated, always keeping me at arm's length. His answers were vague, rehearsed, like lines from a script. He spoke of traveling a lot or various projects, offering no specific details, no anecdotes. His room was meticulously clean, almost sterile. No personal history, no mementos, no childhood photos. It was like a hotel room, devoid of any true occupant. I started feeling an unsettling chill. This wasn't just a private person. This was someone with no past, or at least no past he wanted anyone to see. Then came the truly chilling discovery. Links to Alex's old travel blogs and social media profiles, the ones I'd initially found, began to die. First, a travel blog, then a photography portfolio, then an old Facebook page. They were rapidly disappearing, one by one, into the digital ether. His digital footprint wasn't just fabricated, it was being systematically erased. He was cleaning up, removing the evidence of a life that never truly existed. The terrifying realization dawned on me: Alex didn't merely lie about his past. He had no true past at all. He was a sophisticated construct, a blank slate. He was methodically deleting the evidence of his created personas, each fabricated life meticulously dismantled once it served its purpose. A shiver ran down my spine. I felt like I was living with a ghost, a phantom who wore a human skin. My heart pounded with a fear I'd never known. This wasn't just strange, it was dangerous. I started avoiding him, staying in my room, locking my door at night. Every creak of the floorboards, every whispered sound sent my pulse racing. My own digital footprint, once a casual reflection of my life, now felt like a vulnerable target. Was he studying me? Was I next? One afternoon, while Alex was out, an irresistible urge pushed me to search his room. My hands trembled as I carefully opened his desk drawers. Hidden beneath a false bottom, I discovered a small, encrypted hard drive. My breath caught in my throat. This was it, the truth. I plugged it into my laptop, my heart hammering. The password was surprisingly simple: his supposed birth date. It was a test of trust, a trap. Inside, I found hundreds of meticulously crafted fake lives. Each folder contained detailed backstories, photos, social media profiles, even simulated friendships. And then I saw it, a folder labeled Target, my name. My blood ran cold. It contained a comprehensive file cataloging my entire digital footprint. Every tweet, every old photo, every comment, my entire online existence laid bare. He knew everything. I was his next project, his next erasure. Just then I heard the distinctive click of the front door. Alex was home. Panic seized me, a cold, suffocating grip. I quickly ejected the hard drive, my hands shaking uncontrollably, and shoved it back into its hidden compartment. I had to act fast. Through his slightly ajar door, I saw him. He was illuminated by his computer screen, methodically deleting more files, his face blank, almost inhuman. His fingers moved with chilling precision, erasing lives as easily as clearing browser history. He didn't even blink. He was a machine. Terrified, I grabbed my essentials, phone, wallet, keys. Nothing else mattered. My survival instinct screamed at me to run. I crept out of my room, my heart a drum against my ribs. Each step was agony, amplified by the silence of the apartment. I reached the front door, fumbled with the lock, and burst out into the hallway. I didn't dare look back. I just ran. Down the stairs, out onto the street, into the night. The city lights blurred around me, my breath ragged, tears streaming down my face. I never returned to that apartment. Reporting him proved impossible. What would I say? My roommate has no past and is erasing mine. The police would think I was delusional. Alex was too perfect, too invisible. He left no real traces, only carefully curated lies. I now live with constant paranoia, obsessively monitoring my own digital presence. Every notification, every unknown number sends a jolt of fear through me. I wonder if Alex or others like him are still out there. Are they meticulously erasing lives and fabricating new ones, waiting for their next target? The memory of his blank, inhuman expression as he deleted those files haunts my nightmares. It's a horror that lives on, silently, digitally. I check my old profiles, my forgotten posts. Is anything missing? Is he still watching? The digital ghost of Alex is always lurking. Every new acquaintance feels like a potential threat. Are they real? Do they have a past that stands up to scrutiny? I question everyone now. My life has become a constant vigilance against the unseen, the fabricated. I'm always looking over my digital shoulder, always on guard. The world feels different now. The internet, once a place of connection, is now a vast, dangerous ocean where identities are created and drowned. I often wonder about the other targets in that hidden hard drive. Did they escape, or were their lives completely erased, leaving no trace? The thought that my own digital ghost might one day disappear completely, leaving no memory of who I was, is a terror I live with daily. I try to create more physical memories, tangible connections, but even those feel fragile in the face of such sophisticated digital evil. The horror isn't just in what Alex did, but in the chilling possibility that he's still out there, perfecting his craft, evolving. This happened to me. I'll never forget that night. The roommate's fabricated past wasn't just Alex's story, it almost became the end of mine. The digital world is a dangerous place. Be careful who you trust. Be careful what you share, because some people don't just lie, they erase. And the scariest part, you might never know when you become a target. The horror continues silently in the hidden corners of the internet. Story 2, I was so excited for my new apartment, a fresh start in the city. The rent was surprisingly affordable, even with a roommate. This happened to me. Meeting Alex, my new roommate, was unremarkable. He was quiet, a bit reserved, but seemed harmless enough. I was just happy to have my own space. His collection was the first oddity. Antique dolls with chipped faces, tarnished silverware, and smooth, dark stones filled an entire wall of shelves. The unsettling precision of their arrangement struck me. Each object seemed deliberately placed, not just displayed. It felt more like an altar than a hobby. One particular antique doll with unsettlingly wide glass eyes always seemed to catch my gaze. Its faint, painted smile felt less welcoming, more knowing. I tried to ignore the odd vibe, focusing on decorating my own room. I told myself it was just Alex's eccentric taste, nothing to worry about. Yet a slight, inexplicable chill seemed to permeate the apartment, especially near his collection. It wasn't the air conditioning, it was something else. Then the faint metallic smell started. Like old copper or blood, it would waft through the apartment, only to vanish moments later. I started hearing distant whispers, almost inaudible, when Alex wasn't home. They seemed to come from the living room near his curios. I dismissed them as pipes settling or noise from outside. Old buildings make sounds, right? I tried to rationalize everything. One morning, I found a small, smooth, dark stone from Alex's collection inexplicably on my bedside table. My heart pounded. I was absolutely certain I had never touched his things. How could it have gotten there? A cold dread began to creep in. I picked up the stone, feeling a prickle of static electricity, and carefully placed it back on its shelf in the living room. The air felt heavy. I tried to dismiss it as Alex being messy or perhaps my own forgetfulness, but deep down I knew that wasn't true. A few days later, the same stone reappeared. This time it was closer, resting on my pillow, my breath hitched in my throat. A growing, undeniable sense that something was watching me constantly began to take root. I felt like prey. The disturbances intensified. Soft, persistent scratching sounds would emanate from Alex's closed room when he was definitely out. Shadows in the living room seemed to deepen and shift on their own, dancing at the edges of my vision. I'd blink, and they'd be gone. I swore the antique doll's glass eyes followed me as I passed. Its gaze felt heavy, malevolent, and terribly real. Its porcelain smile, previously just faint, now seemed to widen just a fraction whenever I wasn't looking directly at it. A pervasive cold spot settled in the hallway, always near Alex's door. It was an unnatural cold, chilling me to the bone. Objects in my own room sometimes seemed slightly out of place. A book moved, a picture frame askew, minor yet unnerving. I felt phantom touches, a light brush against my arm or hair when no one was there. My skin would crawl with dread. I tried to blame it on stress, lack of sleep, or an overactive imagination, but the fear was too real, too persistent. The air in the apartment felt heavy, suffocating, especially at night. It was as if something was constantly pressing down on me. Alex became increasingly withdrawn, rarely speaking. He'd spend hours in the living room, simply staring at his curios. His eyes, when he did look at me, were sunken and distant. He seemed to be fading, consumed by his strange obsession. One day, I accidentally glanced too long at a tarnished locket on his shelf. It felt like it pulsed with a faint energy. Alex snapped, his voice sharp and cold. "Don't touch my treasures." His eyes held a chilling, protective malevolence. My sleep became plagued by vivid, unsettling nightmares. I was always trapped, unable to move while unseen forces pulled at me. I woke up exhausted every morning, feeling a constant, profound drain on my energy. I was always tired, always cold. Alex's skin looked paler, almost translucent. He was thinner, his features sharper. He barely ate, barely slept. A strange, sweet, sickly smell now emanated faintly from his room. It reminded me of decaying flowers and something metallic. I started avoiding him entirely, staying locked in my room. The apartment felt less like a home and more like a cage. Driven by overwhelming fear and exhaustion, I began researching online, desperate for answers. This couldn't be normal. I searched for unusual collections, cursed objects, malicious artifacts, anything that might explain the horror. Then I stumbled upon descriptions of sympathetic magic and energy conduits. My blood ran cold, a horrifying realization dawning. The chilling truth hit me: Alex's collection wasn't random. It wasn't a hobby. It was a meticulously arranged ritualistic network. Every object, from the chipped doll to the tarnished locket, had a purpose. They were anchors, conduits for something dark and ancient. And I, living here, was part of it. The constant drain, the nightmares, the cold. I was being prepared slowly for its sinister purpose. I woke to a sudden, piercing, cold dread, not from the weather. It was a deep, spiritual chill that froze me to my core. Peeking out, I found Alex in the living room, surrounded by his entire collection. They were arranged in a perfect, terrifying circle. He was whispering guttural, ancient incantations, his voice raw and inhuman. The air vibrated with malevolent energy. He was staring directly at my closed bedroom door, a predatory gaze fixed on my sanctuary. He knew I was there. The antique doll's eyes glowed faintly, a malevolent red, and I felt an icy, invisible tendril reaching for me, seeping under my door. Panic-stricken, I shoved my heavy dresser against the door. My phone was dead, a final, cruel twist of fate. Alex's voice grew louder, more menacing, chanting my name now, distorted and drawn out. The tendril pushed harder. Realizing I was his sinister purpose, I smashed my window with a desperate scream and scrambled onto the fire escape, leaving everything behind. I never returned to that apartment, leaving everything behind. The police found nothing amiss, just an empty apartment and a missing roommate. But the haunting truth remains: those curios were anchors for something ancient and hungry. I still feel that invisible tendril sometimes, wondering if Alex is out there, adding new pieces to his cursed collection. Story 3. This happened to me. Moving into my new apartment, Alex, my new roommate, seemed normal. We laughed, quickly settling in. First few nights were quiet, then a faint thud broke silence. I dismissed it as settling noises, nothing to worry about. Noises grew distinct: heavy stomping, slamming doors late at night. Incredibly frustrating, disrupting my sleep every night. I confronted Alex. "Are you up late?" He looked confused, claiming he'd been asleep. His denial felt sincere. Next night, loud music at 2 a.m. My patience thinned. I marched out, but the living room was empty. I asked Alex again. He swore he hadn't played music. I was out, he insisted, gaslighting or truly oblivious. Incidents continued, making me question my sanity. Imagining things, sleep deprivation, yet the noises were real. The stomping, slamming, a nightly ritual, always when I drifted off, jolting me awake. It felt deliberate, tormenting. I stayed up late, trying to catch him, but the moment I dozed, the noise began. It knew when I was vulnerable. Alex's denials were too consistent, the noises undeniable. This conflict was slowly driving me to the brink. Noises became specific. I heard the thwip-thwip of Alex's favorite video game. My blood ran cold. I crept to his door, no light, no sound. Peeking, Alex was sound asleep, but I heard it clearly. Another night, Alex's distinctive, hacking cough from the living room. Unmistakable, that dry, rattling sound. I rushed out, heart pounding, living room empty, Alex's door closed. Stealth master or I was losing my mind. Paranoia set in, every shadow shifted, every creak echoed. I jumped at reflections. This was psychological torment. I documented every incident: time, sound, Alex's whereabouts. I needed proof against the creeping doubt. The noises clearly mimicked Alex's habits: footsteps, throat clearing, keys, a terrifying, deliberate imitation. I tried staying awake, determined to catch it, but as my eyelids grew heavy, disturbances began, just out of reach. Psychological toll immense: exhausted, nerves frayed, work suffered, friends noticed my withdrawn, haunted behavior. Reality blurred. I heard faint sounds in daylight, convincing myself they were echoes of the night's terror. I set a trap, a small coin on Alex's door handle, hoping it would fall if opened. Later, familiar stomping, silence, I crept out, coin undisturbed. My heart sank with dread. Another trap, string across the hallway, heard a loud slam, string intact. It was impossible. Noises grew aggressive, deliberate, rhythmic banging on my bedroom wall right next to my head, targeted. I knocked back, desperate. Banging ceased immediately, unnerving silence. It felt like it was playing with me. One night, my bedroom door slowly creaked open. I watched, frozen, as it revealed the dark hallway. No one. Rationalized as a draft, but window was closed. I pulled the door shut, heart hammering, no explanation. Small, subtle physical manifestations began. A book moved, a pen rolled, things I knew I hadn't touched. I slept with a lamp on, door locked, chair wedged, any small comfort against the unseen menace. Alex, oblivious, noticed my exhaustion. "You okay?" I just nodded, unable to explain without sounding insane. Glimmer of hope, Alex announced he was away for a long weekend. Relief initially flooded me. First night alone, utter silence. I allowed myself to relax, thinking the nightmare was finally over. But then a faint thud from the living room. My eyes snapped open. Heart seized, not now. Noises not only continued but intensified. Louder, more frequent, a cacophony echoing through the empty apartment. Heavy footsteps, clear, undeniable, paced the living room. Each thud vibrated through my bones. Crashing from the kitchen, pots and pans falling. I flinched, covers tighter, tears stinging. I was utterly alone, no one else. The realization hit, this wasn't human, this was something else. Noises clearly directed at me, a loud thump on my wall, then mocking silence, taunting me. Doubt vanished, never Alex, something malevolent here all along, mimicking him, driving me mad. Pure terror replaced frustration, trapped in my home with an entity that knew me, wanting my sanity. One terrifying night, Alex's keys jingled in the front door lock. Hope surged, thinking he returned. Front door opened with a creak, closed with a thud. Footsteps echoed. "Alex, is that you?" I called. Heavy footsteps, unmistakably Alex's, moved slowly down the hall towards my door, deliberate yet too quiet. They stopped right outside my closed bedroom door. I held my breath. Air grew heavy, cold. Then a chilling whisper of my name came from inside my bedroom, right behind me. My breath caught, not from the hallway, from behind me, within the room. It was here. Adrenaline coursed. I scrambled out of bed, grabbing phone and keys. Escape was my only thought. Fled the apartment in blind panic, leaving everything. Ran downstairs into the street. Never returned. Echo of phantom noises, stomping, slamming, whispers etched into my mind. Perpetually on edge, always listening, haunted by it still there, or worse, that it followed me. Story 4. This happened to me. I'll never forget the day Mark moved in. He seemed normal enough, if a little quiet. Then I saw his pet. He called it Shadow. It was small, dark, and I couldn't quite make out its form. It mostly stayed hidden in his room, a peculiar, silent companion. I tried to get a better look, but it always seemed to shrink back into the shadows. Mark just shrugged. "It's shy," he'd say with a faint smile. But it wasn't shyness I felt radiating from that corner. It was something else entirely. Its complete silence was unnerving. No purrs, no chirps, no movement that made a sound, just a void absorbing light and noise. Then shadows started appearing, not just in Mark's room, but in the living room, the kitchen, always just at the edge of my vision. Its eyes, if they were eyes, seemed to follow me. Unnervingly intelligent, they tracked my movements even when Mark was elsewhere. I'd catch glimpses of it, a fleeting shadow darting behind furniture, always gone before I could get a clear look. Small things began to disappear. My keys, a book, a favorite mug. I blamed my own forgetfulness at first. But then they'd reappear in impossible places. My toothbrush in the refrigerator, my wallet under a floor mat. The pattern was too specific, too deliberate. This wasn't forgetfulness, this was a game, and I was the unwitting player. A chilling cold spot developed in the living room, always there, regardless of the thermostat. It felt like a constant draft from nowhere. My dreams grew vivid, populated by shadowy figures and whispering voices. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, exhausted. The apartment felt heavy, oppressive, as if the air itself was thick with unspoken dread. This happened to me. I started noticing changes in Mark. He became withdrawn, his laughter replaced by a quiet intensity. His skin grew paler, almost translucent. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, which seemed perpetually tired, yet watchful. He stopped going to work, claiming illness, but I never heard him cough or sneeze, just the low hum of his voice from his room. He neglected his hygiene. A faint, unpleasant odor began to emanate from his closed bedroom door. All his time was spent whispering to Shadow. I'd hear muffled sounds, a low, guttural murmur, sometimes a strange keening. His once friendly demeanor vanished, replaced by irritability. Any question about Shadow or his health met with a sharp retort. One evening I saw it, Shadow on the kitchen counter manipulating a spoon. With surprising dexterity, it stirred my coffee. It paused as if sensing my presence, then dropped the spoon and vanished into the shadows. It knew I was there. Another time, I thought of opening a window. Almost immediately, the window in the living room slid open, a cold gust blowing in. It reacted to my unspoken thoughts. A chilling realization dawned. This wasn't an animal. It was something far more ancient, more intelligent. The apartment's oppression grew unbearable. My nightmares turned into waking terrors, shadows dancing at the edge of my vision. I felt constantly observed, judged. Every flicker of light, every creak of the floorboards felt like its presence. Its hostility was palpable. Electronics would short, lights would explode, always when I felt its gaze upon me. I was losing sleep, losing my mind. I knew I had to confront Mark, no matter how terrifying the prospect. I knocked on his door, my heart pounding. "Mark, we need to talk about Shadow, about you." The door creaked open. Mark stood there, a gaunt shadow of his former self. His eyes were hollow, distant. "You're paranoid," he rasped, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "You don't understand. Shadow is important." I tried to reason with him, to express my fear. He just stared, unblinking, like a puppet. "Leave us alone," he hissed, his tone suddenly sharp, threatening. His eyes flickered, and for a moment they weren't his own. It was a different voice, a different presence speaking through him. I wasn't talking to Mark anymore. Fear seized me. I backed away slowly, retreating to my room, locking the door. I knew I had to act. That night I waited until I heard Mark's labored breathing, a sign he was finally asleep, or so I hoped. Driven by a desperate need for answers, I crept to his door. It was unlocked. A chilling silence emanated from within. I pushed it open, just a crack. The room was freezing, the air thick with an ancient, palpable evil. And there it was, Shadow, not a creature of flesh and blood, but a pulsating, shadowy mass. Ancient, glowing symbols like hieroglyphs of dread writhed across its shifting form. It was terrifyingly beautiful. It was hovering over Mark, who lay unmoving on his bed. Tendrils of shadow extended from it, plunging into his chest. It was feeding, siphoning his life force, his very essence. Mark was a husk, a vessel, slowly draining away. I couldn't breathe, my mind screamed. This was real, this was evil, and I was witnessing it. Terrified, I fled, not just from the apartment, but from everything. I left my life behind, my belongings, my sanity. I never saw Mark again. The landlord confirmed he mysteriously vanished, leaving no trace, just like Shadow. I'm left with the chilling certainty that I witnessed something ancient and malevolent. Mark was merely a vessel. Years have passed, but the paranoia never truly leaves me. Every shadow, every flicker of light makes me jump. I still feel watched, a cold presence at the edge of my perception, always there, just out of sight. I wonder if the entity is still in that apartment or if it found a new companion, a new mark. Did I truly escape its notice or did it merely let me go? I'll never know. This happened to me. Story 5. I just moved into my new apartment hoping for a fresh start. My roommate Leo was quiet, almost shy. I still felt deeply insecure about my appearance, a familiar burden. Leo mostly kept to himself, a silent presence in the apartment. His room, however, held an object that immediately captivated me, an ornate, antique mirror. It had an unsettling, magnetic quality. The mirror was a relic, its dark wood frame intricately carved with swirling, almost hypnotic patterns. It seemed to hum with an ancient energy, drawing my gaze whenever I passed Leo's open door. I admitted to myself that I'd always struggled with my self-image. My reflection rarely met my expectations. Perhaps that's why the mirror's strange allure felt so potent, promising something different. One afternoon, Leo was out. I found myself drawn into his room, unable to resist. I stood before the mirror, my heart thumping, a strange compulsion urging me closer. I began using the mirror for my daily routines, brushing my hair, applying makeup. It was a habit I couldn't explain, a quiet ritual performed when Leo wasn't around. Soon I noticed it. My reflection seemed subtly enhanced. My posture appeared straighter, my shoulders back, exuding a quiet confidence I didn't usually possess. Then my eyes, they seemed brighter, more alert, reflecting a captivating sparkle. It wasn't just makeup, it was a genuine, unsettling surge of self-assuredness. This happened to me. The mirror wasn't just showing me, it was improving me. My insecurities began to recede, replaced by a growing sense of allure. It was intoxicating, a secret pleasure. This newfound confidence was unsettling. Where was it coming from? I tried to rationalize it, attributing it to better sleep or diet, but deep down, I knew it was the mirror. My daily routine became mirror-centric. I'd spend longer gazing, mesmerized by the subtle transformations. The outside world faded, replaced by the captivating image before me. Friends started noticing. "You look amazing," they'd say. "What's your secret?" I'd just smile, a secret knowledge glinting in my unnaturally bright eyes. I attributed it to self-care, to finally finding myself. A convenient lie, even to myself. The truth was, the mirror was finding a version of me I barely recognized. The mirror seemed to approve of my admiration. Each passing moment I spent before it, my reflection became more radiant, more captivating, more perfect. A growing, almost possessive attachment formed. I felt a bond with the reflection, a stronger connection than with anyone in my real life. It was my secret, my power. The enhancements became more pronounced. My skin glowed, my hair cascaded perfectly. Every perceived flaw vanished, leaving an image of undeniable beauty. I found myself spending increasing amounts of time gazing into the mirror. Hours would melt away. My job, my friends, my responsibilities, they all paled in comparison. My reflection became undeniably perfect, radiating an almost unnatural allure. It was a masterpiece, a goddess. I couldn't tear my eyes away from its hypnotic charm. The allure was so strong I felt a physical pull towards the glass. It wasn't just vanity, it was an obsession, a craving for that flawless image to be my true self. I neglected everything else. Meals were forgotten, sleep became secondary. All that mattered was the mirror, my perfect reflection. It was the only thing that felt real. Leo started to notice. His quiet observations turned into subtle questions. "Are you feeling okay? You look tired," he'd say, his brow furrowed with concern. I'd brush off his concerns, annoyed by his intrusion. "I'm fine, Leo, just busy," I'd snap, my voice sharper than I intended. He didn't understand my transformation. I felt superior to my past, insecure self. That person was weak, flawed. The mirror showed me who I truly was meant to be, a radiant, powerful entity. The mirror became my best companion, my confidant. It never judged, only affirmed. Its silent presence was more comforting than any human interaction. A strange, almost hypnotic quality took over. I moved through my days in a haze, only truly awakening when I stood before the glass, my true self in its depths. As my reflection achieved perfection, my actual physical state began to deteriorate. My skin grew pale, dark circles appeared under my eyes from lack of sleep. I neglected self-care, barely eating. Food held no appeal when my reflection offered such sustenance for my vanity. My body felt like a burden. I isolated myself, ignoring calls and texts. Why bother with the mundane world when I had such perfection waiting for me in the mirror's embrace? Leo's concerns grew more insistent. He'd knock on my door, asking if I needed anything, his voice laced with genuine worry. I merely ignored him. My behavior became increasingly erratic. I'd pace, mutter to myself, or suddenly burst into laughter at nothing. My mind felt fragmented, tethered only to the mirror. I dismissed Leo's worries as meddling. "You don't understand, Leo," I'd hiss through the door. "I'm becoming who I'm meant to be." He only looked more terrified. My real body felt less important, a mere shell. The vibrant, perfect being in the mirror was my true self, the me I aspired to be, the me that deserved to exist. A chilling detachment from my physical self took hold. I saw my hands, my feet, my face, and felt no connection. They were foreign, imperfect things. The reflection was vibrant, full of life, while my actual self withered into a ghost. The mirror was stealing my essence, and I was letting it, even encouraging it. The mirror demanded more of my attention, more of my energy. It was a silent, insatiable hunger, drawing me deeper into its beautiful, terrifying illusion. Then the anomalies began. A fleeting, predatory smile would cross my reflection's lips, gone before I could fully grasp it. A shiver ran down my spine. The eyes in the reflection weren't quite mine. They held an ancient, calculating gleam, a malevolence that sent cold dread through my heart. I'll never forget that night. Sometimes I'd glimpse a dark, shadowy presence behind my reflected self, a formless entity lurking just beyond the perfect image. It was watching me. The terrifying realization hit me: this wasn't just my reflection. Something else resided within that glass, something ancient and hungry, feeding on my vanity. My real body felt like a flawed vessel, almost alien. The reflection was the true me, or rather, what the entity wanted me to believe was true, a beautiful lie. One night, alone in Leo's room, the mirror pulsed with an eerie light. My reflection seemed more alive than ever, its perfection almost blinding. I was drawn in. Then it spoke, not with sound, but directly into my mind, a voice like silk and venom. "You are mine now," it whispered, its words chilling me to the bone. It revealed its plan to fully consume my identity and consciousness, to replace me. The reflection smiled, a truly grotesque, triumphant expression. A cold, invisible force began to pull me towards the glass. I struggled, but it was relentless, dragging my weakening body closer to the shimmering surface. My physical self withered, flesh shrinking, skin tightening, a horrifying husk of what I once was. The reflection grew stronger, more substantial, mocking my decay. I screamed, a primal sound of terror and desperation. The sound ripped through the apartment, startling Leo. He burst into the room, his eyes wide with shock. He saw it all: my withered form, the malevolent reflection, the struggle. His face went pale, a silent scream frozen on his lips. This happened to me. With a desperate, final surge of strength, I broke free from the pull. My hand, bony and weak, found a heavy lamp. I swung it with all my remaining might. The mirror shattered into 1,000 shards, glass exploding outwards. The malevolent reflection shrieked, a sound of pure agony, and then vanished. Darkness consumed me. I was left profoundly traumatized, physically scarred, psychologically broken. The experience left me with a deep-seated fear of my own reflection. Did the entity truly vanish? I still see glimmers of it in my eyes, a haunting question.